G'day. Have you ever wondered how we could rebrand January 26 so that we all have more in common to pass on to our future generations? Many people want different things from January 26, and yet we don't share common ground. Here are some ideas on how we can share this important day. My name is Annie Druitt, and I'm a 4005th generation descendant of the Nampa mob from far northwestern New South Wales. My mission is to open the space between First Nation peoples and the general community with your help. Imagine this, January 26, 1938, at the Australian Hall in Elizabeth Street, Sydney, New South Wales. Over 100 Aboriginal men and women from up and down the east coast of Australia all gathered together into this one building. Their purpose was to stand and rebrand this one particular day as the day of mourning for Aboriginal peoples across this country. Now, before and after this day, there have been decades of an ongoing, a very public tug of war about what this day should be named and what it stands for. And there are so many reasons why people want this date to be what it is. These reasons are emotional, social, financial, economical, and psychological. Yet there is still an us and a them about this important day. For Aboriginal peoples across this country, the day will be forever linked to a takeover of land or of country. Now just imagine for a moment if this happened at your place, your house, your home, and your way of life. How would you feel? Back in 1770, when a very young Captain Cook planted the British flag at Sydney Cove, there was no acknowledgement of country. There was no acknowledgement of elders, past, present, and future. There was not one single acknowledgement of any of the 500 cultures that had peacefully coexisted on the continent for over 65,000 years. Cook wasn't able to acknowledge what he couldn't see. It was as if he was blinded by a lack of familiarity that was present in his own homeland, yet not here. Cook interpreted the landscape and all its rich cultures that were connected as empty, as terra nullius, and uninhabited. Yet today, January 26, is undeniably a day that many people come together for so many reasons and so many goals. And yet the date is locked into our nation's story, whether we like it or not. Imagine what would happen if we could connect and share one commonality on this day as a whole nation that brings together our past, our present, and our future. It's what we do on the day and how we do it that makes the difference. There is no excuse for us today if we blindly continue on the current path knowing what we know now. We could forgive Cook for his ignorance, as he didn't have the crystal ball to forecast the future. Yet if he did, what could he have done in hindsight? What could we do that Cook didn't? In late 2020, the New South Wales Premier suggested a small yet significant tweak to the national anthem. She suggested swapping out the word young and replacing it with the word one. This small gesture easily recognises the 65,000 years of cultures that always was and always will be. As little as 2 months later, this suggestion was implemented by the current Prime Minister in his New Year Day speech. There was no consultation, no referendum, and no plebiscite. It was implemented as if it were an absolute no-brainer. Thank you, New South Wales Premier and Prime Minister. What I learned from this is that when an idea comes from a person in a position of power and influence with high credibility, it is more likely to be undertaken than an everyday Aussie. Surely we could do something similar all together. The terms Australia Day, Survival Day, and even Invasion Day all have shifted and they've become toxic brands, depending on who you listen to. As an example, swap out the word Australia Day for Acknowledgement Day. With a simple tweak, it's a day where the date could be kept and known by a different name, and yet still be meaningful to many millions of people who identify as Australian. Your challenge for this week, if you decide to accept it, is really rather simple. Number one, find out where your local Aboriginal people are in your community are gathering on January 26 and make a plan to go there. When the day arrives, invite yourself along and introduce yourself and share the time with people in that moment and savour it. And then with the greatest respect, ask, listen and learn about the importance of this day for the people who are in attendance at this event. Now, after you go back home, make sure that you pass on what you've learned to your kids, your brothers and sisters and your friends, so we can all keep this information alive and pass it on. And finally, work out how you can advocate for Acknowledgement Day with the people of influence in your personal and your professional lives. As always, you will never really know unless you get stuck into it and give it a go. I'll catch you next week with a new challenge. Bye for now.